What? What's this? Round 4? Already? Didn't we just see round 3? Why, yes, we did. Welcome back to the face-to-face 1K Legacy side event for the face-to-face tour. So this is Jay on Sneak and Show versus Claudio on... I don't know what to call this. It is not Crashing Footfalls Cascade. I think someone told me, I think Jeffrey told me that it was called Mississippi River. I'm not exactly sure what the deck name is, but we're just gonna go with Cascade deck. Okay, so Jay is on a Malta 6 here. He's gonna bottom a card. So Claudio is gonna start us off. So this card, I believe, is Hickory Woodlot, which comes into play tapped with 2 depletion counters on it. And then you can tap it to remove a counter to add 2 green manas on, or 2 green mana. The second land that he plays is Sulfur Vent, and it comes into play tapped. You can tap it to add black, or you can tap and sacrifice it to add blue-red. So there is a Sweet Gum Recluse in Claudio's hand. Looks like Jay has 2 Force of Wills, Daze, Show and Tell, Lotus Petal, and a Sneak Attack. I'm not even going to try to list what cards are in Claudio's hand, because I have no idea what I'm looking at. There's an Ancient Tomb. So on turn 3, he does have 6 mana. So I think he can play Sweet Gum Recluse. I think that's a 6-drop. But it does have Flash. So we're going to see this commander card in action. Jay draws a card and passes the turn. So we're going to see Claudio flash in this Sweet Gum Recluse. It's going to Cascade. And when it enters a battlefield, it puts 3 +1/+1 counters on it for each target creature that entered the battlefield this turn. So I think this is the card that is the main card in his deck, and it's Creative Technique. I believe it's from the Strixhaven Commander decks, and it has the Strixhaven mechanic Demonstrate. So when you cast it, you can have your opponent copy it, and then if you do, you get a copy. So you get the original, you get your own, and then in between those two, your opponent gets a copy. So this says shuffle your library, then reveal cards from the top of it until you reveal a non-land card. You exile it, and then you put the rest on the bottom, and then you can cast the exile card without paying its mana cost. So it's almost like another version of Cascade, except it doesn't care about the mana cost. So the little die on the corner is how Claudio represents the copies. Oh, okay, so the copy doesn't go in between. You can choose to copy the Creative Technique, and then they get one, so they get a copy of it, and then you get 2. So Jay chose to do the copy, he gets a Preordain, and then in response to the copy, he's going to Daze, counter the copy, then he's going to Force of Will the original. Can't Sweet Gum Recluse target itself? Can't it be a 3/6? Claudio, it plays a Dwarven Ruins, and then casts a Creative Technique, and then, you know, does the Demonstrate thing. So Jay gets to cast a Show and Tell, puts in Sneak Attack, and Claudio puts in Boarding Party. So that's a 6/3 haster with Cascade, but it doesn't get to Cascade because you put it straight into play from Show and Tell. So the copy of Creative Technique gets Force of Willed gets Force of Willed, so now Claudio only gets the original copy. So Jay explaining that he exiled Show and Tell to the Force of Will. So here we go, Claudio going to resolve this Creative Technique. That is Let the Galaxy Burn, which is 1 red, 5, and then X, has Cascade, and then it deals X damage +2 to each creature that didn't enter the battlefield this turn. So he's just going to Cascade here. So he cascades into Creative Technique. So this is how the deck kind of pops off. It now just cascades its entire library, And then I think the creative techniques hit Emrakul. I think that's the finisher. And then because you cast it, you get an extra turn, and then you can just swing out. So it doesn't look like there's a copy. I think this is just the original. There's Boarding Party. And now the Boarding Party gets to Cascade into a 5-drop. So yeah, there's the Emrakul. There's an Apex Devastator. Oh boy. You guys should have seen my face when I was watching this live. This was something. I've never seen this deck really played before. So there's another creative technique off of the Boarding Party. So he is going to demonstrate. So there is going to be... So I think the stack is currently... So I think there are 2 creative techniques, like original copies, still on there. There's an Emrakul off the top for Jay. So he gets an extra turn, if he ever gets one. So there's Aurora Phoenix, which is Flying Cascade. Whenever you cast a spell with Cascade, it returns from the graveyard to the hand. So Aurora Phoenix is cascading for 6, or cascades for 5 or lower. So all 4 of the creative techniques are now out of the deck, so we're gonna resolve them. There's a Let the Galaxy Burn. So I think he's out of things to cascade. Resolving the original creative technique here into a Boarding Party. He can't cascade into anything else, so I think it's just going to enter play. And we resolve this Let the Galaxy Burn, deals 2 damage to Suicune Recluse. And then the final creative technique. So this hits Emrakul. So what happens is, because there's 2 Emrakuls, because Claudio is the turn player, he gets his extra turn before Jay does. Alright, so here we are starting game 2. Okay, so it looks like Jay is gonna mulligan. Claudio also gonna mulligan. So both are going to 6 cards for their opening hands. And Jay mulligans to 5. Claudio looks like he's keeping his 6. Okay, Jay looking at Daze, Emrakul, Show and Tell, Flooded Strand, Volcanic Island, Lotus Petal, and Brainstorm. So it's not too bad for a 5-card hand. Claudio keeps 2 City of Traders, 2 Hickory lands, and I think that's a Dwarven Ruins. He bottomed a second creative technique. So Claudio keeping 6, Jay still deciding on whether or not he wants 5. Okay, so Jay will open up with Volcanic Island. Claudio top decks Crystal Vein. Jay casts Brainstorm. So there was a Force of Will in there. So off the Brainstorm, find Sneak Attack, Show and Tell, Brainstorm. Oh no, sorry, it was from the other direction. So Claudio untaps, draws Volcanic Island, and looks like he's just gonna pass a turn. Jay gonna crack his fetch land, looks for an island, draws Polluted Delta for turn. So looks like he has, from the Brainstorm, he kept Force of Will and Omniscience. There is the Polluted Delta. Cracking the Polluted Delta. I think this is where we're gonna see Show and Tell. Yep. So Jay immediately gonna cast this Show and Tell. I think he immediately picks, it looks like the Omniscience. I think he has land, Force of Will in his hand. There's a Dwarven Mine. I think that's Dwarven Mine. It's Simian Spirit Guide, Force of Will in Jay's hand. So here is City of Traders. Hard casting creative technique. I think you just... Oh, so he is demonstrating. So this makes it a little awkward. So depending on what Jay finds off the top of his deck, I think no matter what, you're going to want to counter one of the Cascade cards. So there's a Ponder off the top. Jay's looking at another Force of Will, Lotus Petals, City of Traders. think you draw the Force of Will and just counter both. The problem is if you do that, then you're not doing anything for the next 2 turns, which might be really bad. I actually would consider shuffling this away. It looks like Jay agrees. I think it is better to let Claudio kind of do a little bit of his game actions rather than potentially lose within the next 2 turns. So Jay, unfortunately, top decks an island, has no other responses. Wow, first card looks like Claudio boarded in. That looks like Mirror Shell Crab. It's a 7-drop that has Ward 3, and you can channel it for 3 mana to counter a spell or ability, unless the opponent pays 3. So there's a Force of Will. Jay finds... I think I'm pretty sure I saw Blood Moon. There's a sneak attack as well. So he's putting Days on the top. Or keeps Days. Okay. There's Blood Moon. There's a Simian Spirit Guide. So this can chump this Mirror Shell Crab. Okay, so it looks like Claudio has top decked Otawara. Mirror Shell Crab swings in for 5. Plays a very expensive mountain for the turn. Jay plays an island. I think that's the one that he found off of the Ponder. Mirror Shell attacks for 5 again. Passes the turn. Jay has the sneak attack, puts it into play. Not really finding much here. Down comes Crystal Vein. Mirror Shell Crab attacks. Simian Spirit Guide will chump. Draws a card for turn. There's a Ponder. So it finds Ponder, Days, Land. Draws Ponder, I think. Pay 1... Oh, okay. So, pay 1, sneak in a Gristlebrand. Lose 7 life to draw 7. Does not find a creature. He instead finds a couple cantrips and a couple sneak attacks. There's a Ponder for free. Finds a card, doing it pretty quickly. Oil Slicked, so I think it's Atraxa. There is Atraxa Grand Unifier. Okay, now we're cooking. So here's the top 10. Wow, that is not very good. Oh, there's an Emrakul. Finally gets an Emrakul. So he gets to cast Emrakul. Well, he'll first attack with Gristlebrand and Atraxa, gain a bunch of life back. Those 2 will die, and then he will get to cast an Emrakul. Alright, so Jay squeaked it out right at the end there. Those were some very unfortunate cantrips and top decks. Like, there was a lot where he was, like, I think his Atraxa had 4 or 5 lands in it, which was pretty insane. Alrighty, so here we are starting game 3. So Jay, we're gonna focus on Jay's hand here because Claudio's hand is more or less the same. He's just trying to kind of keep 3 lands so that he can cascade very quickly into a 5 or a 6 drop and kind of just go off. So Jay is going down to 6 here. And it looks like Jay is going to 5 once again. Second game in a row. I think this is the correct choice. The fact that you have to be faster than this Cascade deck and you have to be able to present a threat good enough to win the game. Because Claudio, if he ever is able to kind of pop off and do what his deck does, he wins almost on the spot. Whereas Jay takes several turns with his big creatures, unless he hits a sneak attack and then is able to find multiple threats within the first threat that he puts in. Claudio plays a Sandstone Needle as his land for turn. Jay will play a Scalding Tarn into a Grafdigger's Cage. So there's a lot of controversy in this matchup. Jay, I believe after the first game, he spoke with a judge, and Jay wanted to confirm whether or not Grafdigger's Cage will prevent creatures that are being cascaded into. He was wondering if Grafdigger's Cage would stop creature cascades, right? And I believe the judge told him that it did. It worked how Jay wanted to, so he boarded it in. I think they've called a judge here. It is a different judge, and they've ruled against it, and so they called the judge to confirm. The one that spoke with Jay during sideboarding, they called to confirm what the ruling was, and then the original judge ruled against it. So this was a very unfortunate incident. There's no clean resolution of this. There really needs to be some policy change where if you confirm and confide in a judge and they give you misinformation, there should, something has to happen, right? Because players have made decisions based on the validity of the ruling. I guess that's what appeals are for, but if you read the card, Grafdigger's Cage kind of, it says creatures can't enter from the deck, the library, or the graveyard, whereas Cascade, you cast the spell from exile. So this is where Magic becomes very controversial in the eyes of casual players and the public. It's very unintuitive, and especially if that's where something where Magic Arena or MTGO has an advantage where all the rules are automated, it leaves less room for interpretation. Okay, so after all that, Jay cracks the Lotus Petal, plays a Blood Moon. This is to slow down what Claudio's trying to do. So all the cards left in Jay's hand are Omniscience, and there's an Atraxa. Just Omniscience into Brainstorm. So if he can find a Show and Tell, he's in a great position here. I think he does. I think the first card drawn was a Show and Tell. It is. So he draws Lotus Petal, Show and Tell. And I don't know what the third card is. I think you can, because you have the Blood Moon now, you can kind of slow roll the Atraxa. There's a land, Sulfur Vents. So this is Show and Tell, most likely for Omniscience. So it looks like there's a Sweet Gum Recluse coming out of Claudio's hand. No. He can only put in the Sweet Gum Recluse and the lands. So down comes Gemstone Cavern. There's Omniscience, cast Atraxa. We're going to see Sneak Attack, Daze, Show and Tell, Island, Ponder, Daze, Land, Brainstorm, Sneak Attack. So unfortunately, no great threats. He does get the Sneak Attack, but there's no big creatures in there. This is not a very good Atraxa, unfortunately. But the Ponder and the Brainstorm are more ways to find, a Gristlebrand or an Emrakul. Okay, so we're going to cast this Ponder for free. Get to look at 3. Wow, land into Preordain. So yeah, that's going to shuffle. Alright, here we go. What is the draw? So cast Brainstorm. Clearly not a creature. Draw 1, draw 2, draw 3. So I think it was land, Force of Will, Daze. Oh, no, it's Ponder, Daze, and land. Here's going to be a third cantrip. Jay knows the top 2 cards, so he dug 1 card deeper, but he's going to shuffle it. This is a lot of digging to find 1 creature. Draw a card off the Ponder. It is not a creature. So cast Sneak Attack, play Island, and pass the turn. So now Claudio is at 6 mana and his deck can now do exactly what it wants to do. So there's a hard cast creative technique. So I think Claudio needs to be extremely unlucky here for Jay to have a chance. Although the Atraxa does have lifelink, I don't know if Claudio can put enough. Well, I mean, oh, there's an Emrakul right off the top. If it was only one card deeper, I guess he has to shuffle, but it comes exactly when he doesn't need it. If this Emrakul was found on Jay's turn, then it would have been game. Claudio would have had to sack all of his lands, and Jay would have just won the game on the spot. But he dug almost 19 cards deep, I think. 2 Ponders, a Brainstorm, and an Atraxa. And he unfortunately whiffed on all. Oh, and there's Emrakul. So Claudio. So that was off of the copy of Creative Technique. So now he gets to find another one. I think this finds all of his creatures, and then during Claudio's next turn, which is an extra turn, he can just attack for lethal. And there's Maelstrom Wanderer. So this cascades multiple times, I think. So creatures you could... Okay, so he can try to kill on this turn now, because creatures now have haste, and it itself has Cascade twice. So this is... Yeah, I understand how Jay's feeling. This is a little bit unfair. Like, this Grafdigger's Cage could have been another cantrip spell, and he could have gone possibly almost 3 cards deeper. But instead, he had a dead card, like, completely. So yeah, I think this is the judge that told Jay in the first place that it does work, and now he's saying that all of the lines of text are almost completely irrelevant regarding Cascade. So if there's any judges in the comments, is there any way to kind of... There's no policies that would help in this case, right? Like, you're so far deep into the game. You've had 2 different judges, one of them giving you 2 different answers. Like, the outcome of this game might have been completely different, because seeing 3 extra cards is very relevant. There's a Maddening Hex off of the Cascade. Gonna enchant Jay. Not gonna help with this Omniscience on the battlefield. Jay has Scalding Tarn Daze in hand. Resolving the second Cascade trigger from Maelstrom Wanderer here. Gonna put in a boarding party, using the boarding party to Cascade. Finds Creative Technique. I think we've gotten to the point where you don't need to demonstrate the Creative Technique. You can just use the one of to find like more creatures. So resolving the Creative Technique, there's an Aurora Phoenix, which then cascades. That is Ave the Progenitor Ooze, which is 5 mana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think 8 spells have been cast prior to the Ave, so there should be 9 Aves with compounding power and toughness here. So that should be the end of the game because Maelstrom Wanderer gives them all haste. So that'll be the end of the game. That'll be the end of the match. Not sure how I feel about this. I really do feel for Jay. I really wish that there was something that could have been done. What can I say? Judges have the final say on everything. Alright, so Claudio wins in 3. Stay tuned for round 5.